everyone, and thank you for watching another recording from the Author Aspirations playlist. Today we're going to look at readership. My name is Sade, Fadipe. I am a children's book author, I'm a primary education specialist, and I'm a community development officer.
Hey, hi everyone, my name is FARIDA LADIPO-AJAYI. I'm the literacy leader at the Bookworm Cafe, and the Bookworm Cafe is three main things. We run a children's library where children can come in to read. We run book clubs for children, both in person and virtual. And we also run a children's bookstore, all in Lagos, Nigeria.
So my name is Temilolu Additional. I'm the lead learning officer at Readland. So Readland serves future-centric parents who desire to raise children leaders of confidence, competence, and character by registering them for online master classes and special reading programs. Okay, so Readland basically has master classes and curriculums that schools will naturally not teach, or they don't have time with their huge jam-packed timetable. So Readland helps you to raise your children with specialized master classes. And reading is a foundational class for every child at Readland. It's a foundation you must pass through for you to raise a thorough leader. And we believe that the more every child reads, the more they lead in their specific purposes and in their lives. So reading is not something we can sweep under the ground and say, oh, my child will learn how to read, or they are reading little things, but there are aspects of reading that ensures that a child grows using the specialized 12 pillars. Honing your child's skills as a reader using the 12 pillars makes them whole and makes your child the leader brand that you desire before they're 12. I guess basically. And then we also notice that as children read a lot, their gifts, their talents are more reinforced. That's why we have all the master classes to absorb their strength. And it also helps them reduce their weaknesses the more they shine with what they are good with. So basically that's Readland. And I'm the lead learning officer.
My name is Ovome, SOPIP Africa, which you can find on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. In short, I'll just summarize what SOPIP Africa is. I create content using children's books. So I create content such as arts and crafts, and the primary aim of SOPIP Africa is to teach young children about the continent of Africa, its geography, its history, its people, its culture, using books, arts, and crafts. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Adeshola Ali of Kids Literary Circle. So we want to make reading fun for children. We try to bring the book to life for children, bring the characters in the book out for the children to bring to life, and then try to use science, technology, engineering, art, and maths, STEM, to make reading much more fun for children. We have online classes every Saturdays, and we try to engage our readers to fall in love with books, because once they start reading, the possibilities are endless. And right now, according to statistics, the number of people, adults right now, they don't read. People don't read anymore. They just read 2 lines and then they jump to conclusions. And if our children continue in that path, it will be disastrous. And that's why we need to let them see that reading can be fun and get them to, inculcate that habit. Thank you.
In the last few weeks, the last 5 weeks, we've had different authors on Author Aspiration, and they have shared their reasons for creating content, their reasons for writing books for children. We're focusing specifically on readership within the younger generation. And I hear you when you say adults don't read anymore. And of course, we can't expect children to desire to read if they don't see the adults around them reading. I remember being young and not wanting to read because I did not see myself in books. I did not see myself in books. I had the Ladybird series around me, and I, in particular, was not motivated to read. Was not motivated to read. What were your experiences? What was your experience, Temilolua?
Okay, so basically, I can say that the separation of my parents drove me into books. So it was like an escape the world of reality, of escaping the world of reality for me. It was something I could escape to and see the world I wanted. That was what.
Interesting.
So it was fulfilling at that age for me.
That's powerful. Thank you. Farida.
Sorry, I missed the question. I was logged out for a bit. Internet. Can you repeat the question, please?
What was your experience as a child? Your experience of books as a child?
Okay. Books were like my best friend. I've always been an introvert, so the easiest thing for me to turn to was books. So I would naturally pick up books, and I started reading from very early. Before I started school. I started school quite late. I'm a December child, and they wouldn't let me start school because I didn't turn 3 by September. So I needed to do an extra year at home. So it was books. I was into books from that young until I started school. And then when I started school, obviously it made a difference because after my first class, I got a double promotion to so I skipped the class. So apparently, I guess all of the books I was reading at home helped. So yeah.
Amazing. Adeshola, yourself?
Okay, I always loved reading books. I mean, out of 5 children in my family at the time, I was the only one that was into books, and I got a lot of books. My parents always got all the books, and it blighted. I had a whole library of books growing up. And then also when I was in secondary school, you know, it was like fun for us. We read a lot of books, Goosebumps, Famous Five, Sweet Valley High, and all those books back in secondary school, you know. So it was fun, you know, reading with people. Like I had a lot of classmates too that were also interested in reading. So yes, reading has always been a part of me.
Thank you. Okay. That leads me automatically to the next question. You said reading books like Goosebumps. I haven't heard anyone mention any Nigerian indigenous author. Were you inspired by any indigenous Nigerian children's author when you were young? Anyone can go for the question.
Okay, so I can say basically, before I started reading the Blightings, I started with Nigerian authors. I remember reading books like Kola Nodipe. For me, was one of my favorite Western Yoruba authors. So I had books like, I had books like Shetima, the Slave Boy, The Return of Shetima. I had books like The Pot of Gold. I had books like Sweet Mother. And that was where I experienced, first of all, when I heard the blind mom say, I smell rain. I smell rain. I can remember vividly. It's as if I'm looking through those books again, and I'm having goosebumps as well. So my first foray into reading was from Nigerian authors. Then I began to read books like Mabel Shegun, My Father's Daughter. I began to read books like Chike and the River. That's Chinua Achebe. I began to read things like Without the Silver Spoon. I began to read things like The Drummer Boy. So my first foray into reading were basically Nigerian authors. It was when I now got into secondary school, that was Federal Government Girls Oyo, but then I now began to have a wide range of other authors like Nid Blyton, So I began to have like Sweet Valley twins. We exchange books. Oh, can I read this overnight? You give me tomorrow and all that. That was when I began to have experience of like foreign authors. But basically, I first foray into reading was basically just Nigerian authors. Then I began to read books that were beyond my own age. Then I began to read Things Fall Apart at a 10. Like from 10, I was reading all the pace setters.
Fantastic. Amazing. 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 That's interesting. So what we've had a recount of books. I don't think anyone had an experience of picture books growing up.
I think back in the day, especially for me, I don't think I was exposed to Nigerian books really until I was in, I think just school literature textbooks were the Nigerian books I was exposed to, and especially in secondary school, there were some really, really good books like Second Chance, Bottled Leopard. Those were the kind of books that, was exposed to. But children's picture books, no, I don't think I ever had anything like that back in the day. No, nothing like that.
Same for me too. So I can't even think of a picture book I really liked when I was growing up. I think I discovered picture books quite late when I was preparing for my own children. I mean, I think I read a few of them, but none of them really comes to mind when I think of picture books that I read when I was very young. And even for the books I read when I was growing up, I can only remember books like Chike and the River. My favorite books were the Enid Blytons of this world. Those were my favorite books. So it's later in life that I now started to discover many of these Nigerian writers for children, and I saw that these books were actually fantastic books. So yeah.
Interesting. Thank you. From our discussion about the books that we read as young children, any book that had illustrations were probably in black and white, were probably chapter books. So we didn't actually grow up with that experience of picture books. I mean, I had the Ladybird series, but they were like mini, just like you have the Queen Primers. That's what they were like. Yeah, yes. But I didn't see myself, I was absolutely not interested until I started teaching in the United Kingdom back in 1993, and I started to get exposed to children's picture books, and that's when I fell in love with children's picture books. So we've all had a similar kind of experience, and so that's why we're here. So to date, we've had 6 authors. Our guest number 1 was Mr. Tayo Fatula, who is an illustrator, a cartoonist, and he works with children's books as an illustrator. So he's and he does author, but he authors probably from the ages of 7 and above. He's got the Root series, which is a lovely recollection of our heroes, Black History Month. We also had, as guest number 2, we had Kunda Kids, Dele Alafui, who is an author and also set up a publishing company here in the United Kingdom. Guest number 3, Mrs. Bumi Aboderi Talabi, who we all know as the Picture Book Queen, Akada Children's Book Festival. We had Isehi Anuge, who is also a children's book author and also a values education specialist. And last week we had sister authors, the authors of Ebon, the exotic elephant. Now, in no particular order, and I'd rather you didn't choose someone that you knew, someone that you already know, but hey, I can't I can't instruct you. I would like you to tell me who inspired you. And I think they all inspired me, but I want you to just choose a random person that inspired you. Hopefully we'll cover all the authors that we've interviewed so far. I'm going to ask Mrs. Adeyinka Edward to start. Go.
Hello. Hi. Thank you, Auntie Sade. Well, I really enjoyed the interview with the illustrator, Mr. Tayo Fatula. It was really insightful. I think one of the things that really jumped out at me was the fact that he was someone who was constantly researching and updating his skills, so to speak. He doesn't just rest on his already acquired success or his already acquired progress, as an illustrator, but he was someone who was constantly looking for new materials, thinking of new ways of doing things. He's really into research. He talked about the fact that he worked in a library, and he was always, and for a period of time he was the chief researcher, I think, in one of the magazines or something like that. And he's just into research, into his art form. He says when he gets a new brief or when he gets a new project to work on, one of the first things he does is he goes to research it. And I think that really spoke to me, because that shows a spirit of excellence, and wanting to do your best, regardless of how much experience you have or how much, years you've been doing something. You can always strive harder and make it better. And his interview just spoke to me in that kind of way. So I really found his interview interesting.
I agree with you there. I think, and another thing that he kept saying is, because he's a mentor as well, he was saying that people need to develop themselves and wait for their time, rather than, trying to achieve what they are not yet prepared, what they've not yet prepared themselves towards. So it's, training, educating yourself. Don't say because I work with Mr. Fatuna, I'm going to give you the same prize as Mr. Fatuna. That was one of the things that I picked from it. I found that interview quite interesting, actually, and especially because I actually did meet him in a library, a children's library. So he's got this wealth of experience to do with books. And, for me, if I had any idea, that's the one person I go to and say, look, what do you think about this idea? What do you think about, this concept? So, yeah, it's good to have models like that can support us, and that, that are available to support, because not everyone is available. Not everyone will render their services to mentor and, to be charitable with their time. Yes, thank you for that one. Thank you. Yes, I enjoyed that interview. Who are you passing the baton on to? He's muted. I think he's pointing at you, Adishola.
Okay. I said I'm looking to my right of the screen, so I'll go with Farida.
Oh, it's interesting that you said to. It's interesting that you said to your right. She's actually, from my point of view, she's actually on top of you. The floor is yours, Farida.
Okay, so for me, I've watched, I think, 3 of the episodes, and the one that really resonated with me is the one with Mrs. Abodere Talabi. And I like the part where you said to her that, so then it's fair to call you the picture book queen, because yes, I think that she has earned that. I mean, she came out with, the first time, I think the first book I saw that she did was Diary of a Toddler, and I opened it and I saw the pictures, and I was really like, this is a Nigerian book. I think that was the first of its kind I had ever seen. And I've been following her work since then. So every time she would have a new book, I would request for it. And same consistency, same amazing work done. And then one of the things I also enjoyed from listening to that interview was when she talked about the Akada Book Festival. I mean, that's something that I find really fascinating because of the scale in which it connects different people, book lovers of children's books. Especially for the authors. I like how it has highlighted so many of our authors from all over the world now, not just Nigerian authors in Nigeria. The last festival, which was earlier this year, had Nigerian authors from, I discovered some of them for the first time through that festival. And a lot of children who wouldn't have known about these authors were able to connect with these authors online. So I thought it was really interesting as well. And then also, it wasn't just about books, there were other activities. So there were classes for children, personal development classes for children, which I found really interesting. I was also on one of the panels as well. And I thought that when they told me about the panel and the topic, I was really, really fascinated by the idea of discussing that on that kind of festival, because it means that we're looking at the importance of getting our books all over the world, which is something I'm very passionate about. So yes, for me, this episode was amazing.
And I think one thing that I know about that particular interview is that it could have gone on for hours, because there was just so much to cover. You know,
Exactly, yes.
I had to control. I was excited, but and also, you know, she'd recently had her birthday, so I was excited, and you know, just so many things that I just wanted to cover with her. And there's so much to learn. So consistency was definitely one of them. Consistency,
yes.
all the way through. And also the bit when I said, okay, you know, are you also a prophetic author then?
Yes,
coming out with a title like,
hands?
why do we wash our hands just before the pandemic?
Yeah.
You know, that was amazing. I enjoyed that. But also, it was at the Akada Children's Book Festival that I got to see you for the first time.
Oh,
and that
okay.
conversation,
See what I mean?
that conversation, you know, it still resonates. It is so powerful. You know, I have asked you for a recording because it's one of those things where when you sit together and you talk about readership and you're thinking about how it can affect the lives of children, you know, irrespective of what's going on around them. Think about what Tim Lulua said about when she had this trauma at home, you know, it was her escape was books. She was able to escape in books. So think about the trauma going on within the nation, or, you know, whatever might be going on across the world. Think about the wars in different parts. But if children can have books, then they can have hope. Books bring hope. That was amazing. I totally agree with everything you said about that conversation. So, who are you going to hand the baton over to?
Okay, Temiloluwa additional.
Thank you, everyone.
Floor is yours.
Thank you, Farida. Okay, so out of all the interviews that has been done, Izeyi Anunge's own stands out for me. And I think it stands out for two reasons. Number one, because myself and I, let me put it that way. How do I say? I resigned as a teacher. So I understand when you talk about curriculums. And I also understand the fact that curriculums are important. Many of us don't know that books can become curriculums, a total curriculum for primary, a total curriculum for secondary. And being a literacy curriculum developer myself, I can say it stood out for me, the interviews. One thing she said that stood out again was that she said when she wanted to talk about values, that's her message. For everything in life, we almost have a message. And that was her message. And she thought, how can I teach values? Because values are principles, values are standards, values are uncompromising ways of life that we shouldn't play with. He said, how can I pass this message across to to children, like 1 million children. And she said, oh, okay, I'll put this in a book. And she wanted to do a mini book. And someone brought a bigger book and she was like, wow, I could do that. So it makes sense to me that she became like a value-based educator. And she became a writer of, instantly she became a writer of series, something she never dreamt of doing. Okay, so I see the Shape a Child series book going beyond just the primary curriculum. I see it going to secondary curriculum. I also see it going beyond the shores of Nigeria. We are in an economy, or we're in a society that is in dire need of values, where we're already having foreign cultures, foreign way of lives that are, how do I say, detrimental to the future of our children. One of the best things we can have as parents, and one of the biggest ways to help reinforce, or how do I say, train the minds of our children from what society wants to instill and force on them, is to give them a value-based education. So for me, the book stands out because I know that it will go to different African countries. It will go across even the nations of the earth. It will go to different nations that are in their need of that values. Someone says, show me your child, so show me your friend. I'll tell you who you are. And one of the ways I'll tell you who you are is by your values, is by the kind of friendship you hold. So your values dictate your friend. Your values dictate what you say yes to. Your values dictate what you say no to. So it stood out for me that the book, the Captain Excellence series, is already paving that path. And so someone is looking to the future, and not to the future, to the present as well. So if children can have good series, now there's something happening now. What's this company producing Superman? And they are really indoctrinating our children by the cartoons they watch. So it tells me that in this period and their times where that things are happening, then we need to throw content that are positive, content that will train and help us keep our children on the positive and the narrow path, so that they don't derail this early. Because the mind of a child is like a sponge. It absorbs everything that it sees. That it also watches. Most children are visual learners, so it's what they see they absorb immediately. Oh, Superman. So it's important that we give them alternatives to all the detrimental cartoons, all the detrimental content, stories that are out there, and we need to push ourselves out as fast as possible. So I see the Captain Excellence also paving the, bridging the gap for what has values and what will help our children retain their sane minds and retain positive values in our times. So that stood out for me.
Thank you. That was one interview that I'm not even sure that she I'm not even sure that she knows how relevant, how contemporary her work is, and how globally, how globally necessary it is. It's easy to look at our, at our environment and think, the Nigerian child. But hey, I've said this to her, what she's doing is impacting globally. Because think about the children that leave Nigeria for some reason or the other. What happens? They mix with other children. And if there's anything that we know as Nigerians, is that our parents are big on discipline. I won't say, of course, there's a balance for everything, but we don't spare our children. It's a lazy parent that will spare them, because it's easy to spare them. It's easier in the meantime to spare. Yeah, okay, I want this, yeah, have it. I want this, have it. We take the more difficult route in bringing up our children. But unfortunately, when foreign influences, the desire for wealth, those external influences start to have an impact from secondary school, that is when our children start, imbibing other values that are foreign to the home. And so if we're able to catch them young with a value-based system, value-based education, value-based, innovations around what our children can do, then we've caught them.
Books. So I'm going to pick Dele, and I'm going to pick the Lockdown Sisters. Okay. And what really inspired me, I'll go with Dele first, is that because of the whole Black Lives Matters and Floyd, the whole thing that was happening all around the world, it pushed him and his wife to, come together and think of what they can do, to get more diverse books out, to children all over. And then they came up with Kunda Kids, and they were able to write 4 books during the whole lockdown, coming up with 4 awesome books. Those books, anytime I see them or when I read them to children, it always resonates to them. They love them. Just the names of the characters, the fact that they can learn about African kings and queens, because the truth is that our children don't know anything about our history. They don't know anything about our past. They don't know. Even Queen Moremi, if you ask them, do you know who this is? They're like, no, I don't know. Because nobody is teaching them these things. And the only way we can teach them these things is when they see books. So books about these people will help to teach them these lessons, because that's the only way they will learn them. So I think that was very, 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 very important. I really was able to bond with Dele. He said that he loves Sidney Sheldon. I love Sidney Sheldon also growing up. So yes. And then for the Lockdown Sisters, having 2 people sit down and actually think of writing a book together, I think that's really, really awesome. I have a sister, but we've been trying to do something together and we haven't been able to even get it going. And for 2 people to actually sit down and actually come up with something awesome, yeah, I must commend them. The story, it's and one thing I realized with all the books written by our Nigerian origin or African books, I noticed that even the foreign books, yes, the foreign books are very good, but guess what? Our African books are even much better, because our children can relate with those stories. I read these books to children, and even the children that you wouldn't expect to like it, I'll be like, oh, I really love this book. I really love this book. So, and our African authors are even able to bring all this rhyme, in children's picture books. We see rhyme in rhyme, they rhyme the words together. And our African authors are starting to do that. It just takes you to notice it. I noticed that in the Kunda Kids book, the Queen Moremi book, the words rhyme. And that helps the children, it improves their vocabulary. It goes a long way in helping them, the other day I was reading it to some children in a school, and I was telling them, can you see the rhyming words? Can you remember it? And at the end of the day, there was somebody, she actually was writing out all the rhyming words, and all these things. The truth is, when you actually put your pen and your paper together and you write these things down, it actually goes a long way in your brain, you be able to retain it. And that's what we want the children to do. So all these books, they actually help our children, and we need more African authors. We really need more. We can't have enough. Children these days are really, they have a big advantage. They have a bigger advantage than we had when we were growing up, because they have all this content. But they can't have all this content and not use it. And that's why we can't stop. We need to keep pushing, and making this awareness out there, getting more people to appreciate our authors, getting more people to come on board as authors, so that we can have more stories, because stories will always be there. So thank you very much. Fadipe.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. You covered two people there. So I think our lockdown authors were actually, you know, for them to sit down within that period and produce such amazing content, that is, you know, that really is exemplary. And one thing we're all aware of is the lockdown happened, you know, COVID happened, the pandemic happened. It's probably the kind of thing that we experience once in a lifetime, you know, probably once in, you know, a century. So to see how people made use of that and brought out such high quality content, I think that's amazing. There were a lot of things that I liked about the interview with Kunda Kids. And I liked the drive that both he and his wife had, you know, and the fact that they acknowledge that their skills are different, their skill sets are different, you know, but they were able to bring that together, you know. And that is equally the same with the sisters. Their skill sets are, you know, they have different skill sets and they brought their skill sets together, you know. So look at what partnership does. Look at what partnership does. Collaboration. And their books are beautiful. I like what you said about the rhymes. Even with the Ebu and the exotic elephant, there's a repetitive phrase. There's a phrase that keeps being repeated all the way. The song and the culture, you know, the festival. I just love that indigenousness about those books that were written during the lockdown. And, you know, for me, you can see how, so for me to be the recipient of that information, you know, to sit with these people and experience those moments, I found it really special. I found it really special, really special. I couldn't have asked for more. So yeah, thank you for telling us about your thoughts. Anything else that anyone wants to contribute, maybe to either one of the authors you haven't spoken about? I know this bit's coming with my questions, so I'll be prepared. I'll be prepared. Okay, any last questions? Any last comments on the people? Anyone of the authors that you may not have said anything about yet?
Okay, I'll go that. I think everyone is doing fantastic work. I mean, everybody has their value that they are putting in. I mean, everybody's doing fantastic. All of the books, you know, they all have their lessons. They all have the message that they're passing on to the children. So everyone is really relevant, you know, looking forward. Everybody has something, some impact that they're passing on. So everybody is valuable. So well done on everything you do, Mrs.
Well done. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So, does anyone have a question for me? I know, or have I answered those questions?
I
do.
Can you share the list of the people who we should be expecting so that we can look forward, we can anticipate?
Would you rather know instead of me keeping you guessing? Okay. I will tell you. Drum roll. Okay. So we've got. I don't know if I should be saying it. I don't know why I like keeping it to myself.
Shoot your shots.
Okay, this is inner circle now, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Don't tell anyone. So we've got, once again, it's been an amazing experience having all four of you give me your opinions and your impressions about readership and what you think we need to keep doing. I think the main thing that I take away from this is that authors need to keep on writing and we need to keep on creating indigenous content, quality books with language that is rich and educative for our children. So thank you so much for being a part of Readership Reflections, and I hope you will join us again when we have another set of author videos to review. Thank you once again.